Hello and welcome to Nirmal, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiral Dadia. We have with us Dr. Arvind Lal, Executive Chairman, and Dr. Lal Pathlabs joining in. Welcome to the show, Dr. Lal, and always a pleasure to speak to you and get insights from you. Dr. Lal, before we start talking business, I was just reading a couple of days ago with the way you've actually built a single lab into India's most valuable diagnostic service center. And with this, I mean, what you wanted to do versus what you landed up doing, completely different plan and destiny, huh?
I think this is not the first time you are hearing about it. This
Correct.
won't be the last. So yes, I did not even have biology in school, as you have correctly picked up from this article. And once, I so-called retired from the armed forces at a age of 15, and I didn't know what to do because I had been thinking all my life that I will join the Navy and, fly fighter planes and also see the world. So that was not to happen because of weak eyesight, which was discovered in my left eye. And so I had in life, and my son-in-law, who was also in the Navy at that time and retired as a Vice Chief of Naval Staff, Admiral Kohli. So he suggested to me that why don't you try and become a doctor? And he was coming from, the being a family person now. They'd been married, I think, only 1.5 years for that time. So he said, why a doctor's son always becomes a doctor? But not known to him at that time, my younger brother wanted to become a doctor, and I always wanted to join the Navy. And as you know, it didn't happen. And I said that there's no need for so many doctors also in the family. And but he somehow convinced me, and because I was not seeing the other avenues at that time. Not heard of MBAs, we'd not heard of either it was engineering or it was medicine or it was the armed forces for guys who were in the science stream. So to say, so I had to make up my mind, and I had to go back to my 11th class. There was no 12th that time, in 1966. And my principal also said it's not allowed because in the 9th, you have to change your subjects. And 9th, 10th, and 11th, you study the same subject. So you are in the science stream, that is okay. But then there was a choice between studying biology or geometrical drawing or geography. So I had taken up geometrical drawing because in that, keep drawing lines, etc. on the boards and keep making, nice kind of diagrams. And I thought that would help me in the Navy by, charting out the navigation course, say from Mumbai to Southampton or something like that. So anyway, what happened was he said that you should have changed latest by the 10th. And at 11th, it is not possible. But then I cited him an example. I said, well, it happened. So he remembered, and being a very fair man, he's a world famous principal by the name of M.N. Kapoor. And he was our principal, very fair guy. And by the way, the great film director and producer is his nephew. So he said that, okay, even that time, we had to apply to the, secondary board of secondary education. And he said he'll recommend my case. And you won't believe it, the permission to sit in the exam came one week before the final exam, the higher secondary exam. And of course, the biology was not a easy subject, botany and zoology. And I didn't get along with botany at all. And zoology was slightly better. But I just made it. It was a 3 months course, which I had to study in 8 months, and not fully up to my liking. And the rest is history. I got admission in pre-medical, and then went to Armed Forces Medical College, became a doctor, etc. So that's what happened.
Right. So with this journey, in fact, I would want to congratulate you as well, because now you have been in the 2021 Forbes India Rich List. And that's not only rich in terms of where wealth creation is concerned. I mean, it's a lot of richness that you brought on the table when it comes to healthcare as a sector, which is clearly reflected in that. So congratulations on that front as well, Dr. Lal.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hiral. And what I would like to add here is that, we always knew that, we were very good in pathology testing. And the thought, had been brewing in my mind ever since I was a medical student. And you have heard the saying from our famous late President of India that dreams are not what you see at night. Dreams are what that don't let you sleep at night. So here's a living example of much before anybody had heard of, Dr. Abdul Kalam. This actually happened with. So I knew that I would become a good doctor. I knew I would do very well in pathology. And when I actually entered the profession, everybody, all the big government hospitals, including All India Institute and the other ones here, and all the excuse me, all the private ones. So they were all referring their cases to me. But the question was how to build it up, what you call now in your corporate world scaling up. So before that, before I actually came onto the scene, the pathology testing was, an evening topic, amongst friends when they were sitting together for a socially or whatever. And one chap would say that, no, you should go and see that doctor. And, he takes the blood himself and he puts up the test himself. So it was at that level I'm telling about. Even a blood sugar test, people were not fully convinced that a pathology lab could do it properly.
Correct.
So well, I changed all that. And many people have acknowledged that I am the so-called father of modern pathology in India, because I saw all the changes. I saw the change right from the manual era where, the reagents were not available, imports were not, allowed to happen. Now we can buy any, test kit or reagent, but at that time it was not possible. So everything had to be made by you manually. And thanks to my training in the Armed Forces Medical College, we had been taught to be self-sufficient, because army pathologists say run labs in really far off areas, in forward areas, and there is no help there. So we were taught all that, how to make a reagent and how to test and the science which goes behind all that, instead of just putting something in an auto analyzer and pressing a few buttons here and there. So I have seen that change, and I'm glad I was a part of the change, because we understood the science behind it, the chemistry or the physics or the biology behind it. Then the auto analyzers, which I also had the pleasure of introducing for the first time, and many new tests, and well, the rest is history.
Absolutely. So from here on, Dr. Lal, if you have to see in terms of what happened with diagnostic chains, a lot changed in the last 12 to 18 months on the back of COVID. The entire concentration moved to COVID testing. The non-COVID business had gone down. And now you're seeing things stabilize because everyone has taken COVID as a part of life, right? So how are you seeing the entire scenario now, if you have to compare between first wave, second wave, and the so-called third wave, which hopefully we're not really seeing anything in India yet?
Right. So Hiral, the answer to your question is that now it seems that COVID cases are coming down appreciably. So we are not running at a breakneck speed, and people are not trying to contact us all. Just to give you a background to all this. So once the COVID came in, and the method of the formula to treat COVID was test, track, and treat. And treatment also involved, isolation or quarantine. But don't forget, the first part was the testing part. And you will not believe it, that when COVID came in, none of the pathology labs in India, including the government, had ever done a COVID test.
Correct.
We had done COVID-like tests, which was about 8-9 years earlier in the form of H1N1, which was swine flu. So the methodology from the laboratory point of view, mixing here and, was pretty much the same, but we had actually never reported on a COVID test. So it was a very pleasant surprise for a person like me that the first phone call which ever came to the private sector came to me from the director of ICMR, who is Dr. Balram Bhargav. And he said, Dr. Lal, I want you in my office. And we went to the office. I took some other labs, representatives also. And he said that, well, this is a massive affair. The government itself will not be able to manage it. And we would like you also to start doing the testing in private practice, in private labs. So once we got the green signal from there, well, we added and added and added, and out of, so-called 3,000 places where our, COVID-19 is being tested, and about 2,000 labs are testing RT-PCR.
Yeah.
And Hiral, I'm happy to report that more than 60% of them are private labs. We ourselves, which started from testing COVID in one lab, have now created 20 more labs. Yeah. And this is not a small kind of an infrastructure. It is there to stay. So whether COVID stays or not, I hope it doesn't stay. It's on the way out. Of course, it's with a caveat, and that is everybody should take the 2 shots, and also have COVID appropriate behavior, which is wearing masks and not congregating at one place, and religious places or even malls or shopping areas, and so we have to be very, very careful, because if you are reading the papers, clearly the Western countries, and even a small country like Austria, which was thinking itself to be safe, is now caught up very, very badly. And 50,000 cases have been reported. So it has not gone, and nobody in India should think that it has disappeared. At the same time, there is no cause for pessimism, but there is you should be looking forward to a calculated optimism, which is that it's 80% or 90%, 180 crore people are vaccinated by December, and we observe and we become good people. Our civic sense prevails. We keep wearing what I've just described. I think we can look forward to a very nice and healthy 2022.
Absolutely. So Dr. Lal, with this, if you have to look at business from here on, between the COVID and the non-COVID portfolio, what's the kind of growth and what are the new milestones that we're looking to cross?
The old testing, which is pre-COVID testing, if I may use the word, has to come back. It has almost come back to normal now. So normal pre-COVID testing, almost, I would say. And most of the other labs are also reporting the same. So the COVID, as I told you, that we've got to, be on our toes. And at the, literally at the drop, we were able to reorganize it. And boy, we have done 3 million RT-PCR tests, our lab, 3 million. And what I also want to tell you is that these patients were not encouraged or not allowed to come to our labs or to our collection centers, because they would have spread the thing. So we were going to their houses, and our record of the maximum number of home visits in a day is 10,000.
Wow.
So what I'm trying to put across to you is that we hope that COVID is out, or it is going to come down appreciably. And the other testing, and which we can go back and discuss, normal medicine, which was prevailing even before COVID came in. And the normal medicine, which I would like to highlight, is that in India and elsewhere in the world, 65% of your, patients or people or population is dying of what you call non-communicable diseases, also lifestyle diseases.
Correct.
65% of our population. You keep hearing that a 26-year-old boy died the other day, and somebody else who a fitness freak in the film world, died the other day, etc., etc. So the point I'm trying to make is that those lifestyle diseases now have to be, seen the same way we looked at COVID. And these lifestyle diseases, I must enumerate because there is a lot of confusion. So they are known as non-communicable diseases, known as NCDs. They're also known as lifestyle diseases. So anything major which is running in families, etc., well, you and I and everybody around, has a 50% chance of contracting that. because you inherit, when you inherit good looks, a man inherits good height, etc., and good brains, etc. So the families also pass on from father to son and henceforth, onwards, certain diseases which run in the family. And the most common example, which I think you and us, everybody has heard, is Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie, her mother and her aunt, that is Masi as we called it, they both died of cancer of the breast. And by that time, they had not discovered that a family element or a familial or a hereditary element is all involved in the form of a gene, which is known as a BRCA gene, BRCA. And the BRCA gene, once it becomes, slightly mutant, it changes, then it gives rise to cancer of the breast. Now, all these, the father, the two, the mother and the mother's sister, their, pathology samples, which are the breast tissue, was still preserved even after they had died. We can preserve that. So they discovered this BRCA gene much later, and they found that both the, tissues had BRCA gene, and they found the same gene in Angelina Jolie's body, in her blood. And then they put all this information into an algorithm, and they discovered that Angelina Jolie had a 95% chance of contracting the same CA breast. So that's part one. So part two was that she is one of the very few women in the world who had got done, what is known as a preventive radical bilateral mastectomy. So both the tissues in the breast were taken out, the nipples were preserved, etc. So she went to that extent. Now, a lady may not go to that extent, but if you find a BRCA gene, you've got to be very careful. And every 1 or 2 years, the lady from a very young age, as young as 25, should have her mammograms done and see if there is a BRCA gene, and also go up, do some exercise. So the lifestyle, etc., I'm going to link. Let's talk about cancer because we're talking about cancer now. Now, or to a layman, it will sound very, funny that there is a connection between exercise and breast cancer. But unfortunately, there is. It has been found that breast cancer is more in women who are not exercising because the immunity status comes down. And once the immunity comes down, all these, kind of BRCA gene, which was in normal BRCA gene, arrests the formation of cancer. And a bizarre BRCA gene has, lifts the paddle of the brake, and it starts running. And now you can imagine that if you are BRCA positive and you are leading a sedentary life, well, you are in for trouble. So having said that, for breast cancer, things are pretty much similar, say for diabetes, high blood pressure, cardiac ailments, the cancer I've already discussed with you, liver and kidney, lungs, and strokes, and so on and so forth.
Correct.
So the point I'm trying to make is that if there has been a death in the family and there are one death or 3 more people suffering from the same thing, like high blood pressure, diabetes, cardiac ailments, etc., boy, you better be careful. You start off testing at an early age, and that is where the preventive testing or the wellness testing, comes in. You get yourself tested and see if you have those kind of parameters. If you're going to become a diabetic at the age of 35, there is no harm if you start checking yourself by the age of 25. And any sign of the blood parameters, and we have got beautiful tests these days in diabetes, and I hope you know that. We have got the normal blood sugar. Then I introduced a test way back in, I think, early 90s, which tells you an average blood sugar for the last 3 months.
3 months, correct.
One is hemoglobin A1C. Then there's another test by the name of fructosamine, which tells you about the average blood sugar in the past 3 weeks. And 70% of the people who come to Dr. Lal, 70% of the diabetic patients, or patients on what we call end-stage kidney disease, are unfortunately diabetics. So diabetes is a disease which affects so many organs right from head to toe in the body, and kidney, unfortunately, is also one of them. They're also notorious for giving rise to silent heart attacks. So net, what you and I are discussing is that India has to go in a major kind of a manner for preventive testing and wellness testing. And, with that, some kind of change of your, habits, dietary habits, walking, etc., lifestyle disease, you can't sleep every day at 12 o'clock, etc. So all those things, this is not a lecture on how to prevent NCDs, but unfortunately, you have to talk about them because they're very intricately connected with our lifestyle now.
Absolutely. So overall, taking the next 3 years, Dr. Lal, into consideration, what are our expansion plans?
So the background of this is that the Indian diagnostic industry is, I think, about $8 to $9 billion, which is about nearly 70,000 crore rupees worth. And it is growing at a healthy pace of about 10 to 11% every year. And in the eyes of the layman, especially, pathology has, left its mark that आप ये test करा लीजिए, नहीं तो पता नहीं क्या होगा. And not thanking COVID, but COVID has brought, the pathology testing to the forefront. So you could not proceed if the COVID test had not been done. Even if you're going for a normal, say, hysterectomy or something else to a hospital, they would always say, "Pehle apna COVID test karaiye, only then will we, admit you in the hospital." So having said that, the importance of, testing now is coming up. I would say this is a national CAGR 10 or 11%. I think our track record says that we will definitely grow more than that. How much, I can't,
Right. And then overall, currently, what would our market share be?
You see, the market share, I think, of the entire big change in the industry. By the way, there are 3 lakh labs in India now.
Correct.
This is an Indian Express, figure. And so out of those 3 lakh labs, I think our market share is even lesser. It used to be when there were 100,000 labs, we used to say that the big 4 or 5, labs in India, their market share was about 15 or 16%. But I don't know whether to say this because nobody has the correct figures. No survey has been done. So what is it, about 5% now of the big guys, or only slightly more than that? I wouldn't say, but it doesn't matter. The point is because of the untested Indian population. That's number one. Number two, because we are all geared towards the metropolises, Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, big towns, etc. Whereas where 30% of our population is staying. So what happens to the 70%, which is in tier 3 and 4 towns and in rural India? So rural India also has to be connected with the mainstream sometimes or the other, because they suffer from the same kind of lifestyle diseases which we have just mentioned. So it is a question of time that people like us and many more people will be able to tap, into rural India and of course tier 3 and tier 4 towns. So the pathology testing is going to actually expand in a much better way. And I don't wish it to be expanded in this manner of 3 lakh labs in India, which are, by the way, there are only 6,000 pathologists.
Wow.
At 3 lakh labs. So you know what is happening. So the government should quickly enforce what they call the Clinical Establishments Bill. It's not been enforced. Many states have not adopted it. And even the ones who have adopted it, well, they haven't done much about it. So that tells you about each clinical establishment. A pathology lab can be this infrastructure you have to have. You have to have this. Don't have to have that. And similarly, like a ladies' abortion clinic or a children's nursing home or a normal nursing home or a hospital. So all these things are very, very well mentioned there. So in order to bring quality into the Indian systems, well, some government, I hope it is the present government, will have to hold the bull by its horns, which is not being done right now. So the scourge of the Indian health system is, the lack of accessibility, lack of, affordability, and of course, lack of quality systems. to bring quality, you cannot have all the accredited labs in just one day. You and I can't wish it. So first of all, who can run a lab and who has to be inside that lab? What all tests have to be done? This also has to come out. And I think, well, attention has not been paid because we were so busy in trying to conquer COVID, which hopefully we have. And so I think now the time for this quality, things should come up. And you will agree with me that you would much rather go to a pathology testing lab rather than a pathology testing.
Correct.
So that shouldn't happen. So that's my take on it, that the if India has to get out of this scourge of NCDs, and 65% of people are dying, and it is bringing down our GDP by 2%. So I don't think anything more has to be said, that, this is very, very important. And the first step in treating these NCDs or lifestyle diseases is, again, testing.
Absolutely. And I think a lot needs to be done on that front as well. Thank you, Dr. Lal, so much for joining us on the show. A pleasure to speak to you, get insights from you. Congratulations once again, and hoping to see this grow even bigger from here on. Thank you so much.
So kind of you. Thank you very much.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for in-depth interviews of India Inc. and press the bell icon so that you do not miss our updates.